Hey everybody, welcome back to a replay cast for once. Today we're gonna take a look at a ranked game between NickDaMan on blue and Captain Talbot, also known as Colonel Talbot, on red. Both playing blue for deck, however, Nick playing the good old trusty and infamously strong blue mechanized, which might actually be, at least currently and for the past couple of years, the strongest deck in Wargame. At least in 1v1s. Doesn't mean it's bad in team games, but yeah. And Talbot playing his good old Landjut deck on Plunjing Valley, which used to be my favorite map up until Highway to Seoul, but these days a lot of people don't really like this deck, this map, I should say, anymore. It is of course unbalanced, but it's, I guess lies in the nature of asymmetrical maps. But I feel like personally people overestimate how unbalanced it is, but maybe I underestimate it. Who knows? In any case, Charlie, of course, being the favorite side here, having a lot more avenues to push, and of course with a 2-point push, a lot more area to hide your units in and use for cover. And if you manage to push in this crescent forest here, you get both put pressure on both Foxtrot and Delta as well, so that's a very, very strong push. Whereas on the other side, you don't really have anything similar. And as well, of course, if you manage to get into the 2-pointer, this is really the only area where you have where you can actually like hide your stuff in. You, of course, in theory, can push further into, but it's really, really hard. And I would not recommend unless you're like completely demolishing your opponent. Yeah, of course, and then of course a lot of area around the map where you can do some sneaky stuff. But overall, I think this is actually a it's by far very far from perfect, but I think a decently designed map. It allows you to sneak through, but doesn't make it too easy compared to, let's say, held in a very small place. But at the same time, unlike Nuclear Winter, doesn't I wouldn't say make it impossible, but not too hard. If you have an established front line in Nuclear Winter, it's really hard to sneak stuff around. And even though it is annoying, it also annoys me, stuff sneaking around. I feel like it's a good and important part of the game, just like CV snipes. But yeah, let's skip ahead, wait until the game starts, and take a look at their deployments. Landjut generally has some nice stuff to do with mech decks, specifically the automatic and the Martyr 2. The Leopard 2A4, I think, is also one of the better tanks you can have against mechanized decks that tend to have like only medium tanks, but the 2A4, I would say, really fares well against them. Good AP and armor distribution for the price, and especially against blue mixed decks that have access to peace shrines and such. At 19 armor, it means that at full HP, it will survive a peace shrine hitting both missiles. So that's a nice bonus. So, NickDaMan going for this crescent forest here. Looks like he started with 1 CV. Fob fairly heavy into AA, both the P3 and the Gepard. Stinger in Bradley, although I think the Stinger here is more of a nice bonus, and the way I treat it is like, you get it for the Bradley, and the Stinger is just a really nice bonus to have. Having manpads around is always good. Manpad and M3A1 Bradley, so like a cheaper Bradley for like side defenses, low intensity flanks, whereas the heavy hitting TOW 2 you get on the infantry type one. I like that. It makes sense, of course. Achzarit with Rovaid, you don't see that very often. K1 Merkava, not too many tanks, but I guess the TOW 2 Bradley is supposed to help there. CSS, Rifleman Spam, the usual stuff. Chumat, Gazelle Cannon. And of course the Achzarit CV. I think all fairly standard in terms of unit choices. Leopard 2A4 automatic. Milan 1 or 2s. A mortar. 2. I presume those are gonna be Lift Garden given the veterancy. Lift Garden 85 potentially. Luxus, Jägere, Panzergrens 90 presumably in the Martyr 2, and more Lift Garden M41. Also fairly standard for Landjut. Not that you see Landjut all too often, he says, after having played the Landjut mirror match just 2 days ago for you. But yeah. So Nick pushing this crescent forest here, and Colonel Talbot, or Captain Talbot, predicting this, apparently, given that he opens for this side, or maybe he wants to push out a Foxtrot in any case. The Tiger 2 will also give him a clearer picture, so that if he was planning to push down here, he can immediately react to pushing into that area. And the automatic here, as well as the Martyr 2s, have the ability to like get in this position and then shoot into the side of this incoming push. So if you see this push coming, or you predict it, and your opponent does in fact push there, you can't really catch them out in the open. So while it is a very strong push, if predicted properly, it can be punished really hard. Link's trying to unload the Jäger here. The nice thing about blue mixed is you get the TGBs, the only 5-point Jeep that has this amazing off-road speed, meaning that you still get some wheeled, I would say acceptable infantry. They're not amazing, but they have the Carl Gustav, they're shock, they're affordable. It's a nice combination. Hawk Pip 3 with an amazing anti-heal range, of course. Missing its first missile, but not missing twice. Killing the Falscam Jäger at least. But yeah, not what you like to see in Talbot's position. All this infantry making their way up here. Lift Garden, yes indeed. Interesting to see him vet them up. I feel like getting that extra losing the availability can hurt quite a bit in a matchup like going up against Mechanized, where you might actually use up all of your infantry. Alright, Razzmann pushing here with the tanks in the back. Bradley supporting, CS is supporting. Achzerit's moving over to the side. It wasn't really planned, but Nick has to react to that. Try to get his town back. With the single CS should be possible. Level 2 for opening on the K1, hitting one, and presumably, yep, finishing it off. Like I said, really good tank against medium tanks. Oh, automatic here shooting in the side. Well, no tank can really, shoot back at it. So all the tank support, as well as of course, losing the K1, essentially being murdered out here without getting a lot of value. NickDaMan immediately getting a second CV to get a +2 tick going. So is Talbot. So there's not going to be a long +2 for either of them, whoever gets there first. The other automatic, of course, also helping massively. But those Achzerits with their 6 MGs, absolutely murdering those Jäger. Of course, the AMX10 also helps, but I think it's definitely those that Achzerit doing the major work here, especially also with stunning and panicking them. So yeah. Quite, I guess I underestimated that thing a bit. Of course, can also tank shots quite well with 10 armor. 2A4 being a bit aggressive here, but Gebhardt being preserved via smoke. But overall, the opener didn't go well for Nick. But here's the deal. If Nick can hold on to this town, he's still going to be in an acceptable position, because all Talbot did was stop this push, right? The problem is, once you stop this push here, from this position it's hard to make a lot of ground. The best thing he can do is probably try to get complete control over Foxtrot, but pushing from here into Alpha is gonna be obviously not impossible, but presumably very reckless. Lots of open field against the blue mixed deck that has access to Kernuses, A10s, Peace Rhines, stuff like that. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily. Whereas, of course, if Nick succeeds, he can put pressure on the Foxtrot and Delta. So I presume that Talbot will now try to gain complete control over Foxtrot before Nick can properly reinforce this. He still has a Chumat squad here, and a CS, and of course AA that can potentially help with, not necessarily stop killing all the stuff, but definitely stopping him. Because while Talbot has a lot of points here, only a few infantry and cheap stuff that you need for pushing. You can't just push with a tank and an automatic. You need infantry, you need recon. He has some infantry and some recon, but not a whole lot. And NickDaMan being very cautious with trying to preserve the Chumat ammunition here, not trying to waste them with the 5-pointers, turning it on and now shooting it at 2A1. Not doing a whole lot of damage to the 2A1, I believe it's 2.5 if I'm not wrong. Or maybe even just 2 damage, hard to see here. Might be just 2 damage. I think for the first 10 AP it's the same as the kinetic formula, so it should be 2 damage, I believe. But yeah, still, 2A4 of course took damage from the K1 and is now fairly low. So he has to be careful. Looks here, very sneaky, killing that Gebhardt. Another Looks trying to sneak through here. That's the dangerous thing from this side here. This part can be really frustrating because you can never, or it's really hard to get full control over this, let alone full line of sight. So it's very easy to have stuff snuck through here, especially if you have a CV move down here. You think it's secure, but then there's this Looks waiting or something. Or at this point in time, suddenly the Looks gets line of sight. It can be frustrating. About the and it's gonna kill that Hawk easily. Yeah, Hawk with 5 HP and no armor Doesn't take a lot of effort to kill. There's another tiger. I think not the biggest threat for mech deck, especially in general. I would say it's not too strong against mech decks because they tend to not have single high value targets that you can really snipe with the tiger. Of course, the tiger is still gonna be strong, don't get me wrong. But you tend to not get as much value out of it against mech decks most of the time. They also tend to have, you know, ATGM, man pets, etc. around. And just lots of cheap stuff that the tiger doesn't like to deal with. Tiger is a sniper, of course. Not like a hind that also carries a lot of rocket pods and stuff like that. As well as a gun, which a tiger doesn't have. But on the other hand, of course, mech deck being, generally speaking, rather slow. If you manage to get rid of all the AA, it's gonna take quite a while until new AA arrives to deal with this. You don't have Crotals or E290s or Erikois or LSTR on wheels that you can quickly call out to deal with something like this. 1 point CV from Talbot coming in to get that +1. Neither player having a whole lot of conquest points, so that's gonna put some nice pressure onto Nick. Lift Garden trying to push here. There's still a Chumat squad. And those Rovate are very low on HP, so even though the Lift Garden are in the open, they're on Veteran, they're shock squads on Veteran, so they shouldn't have a problem dealing with those. And of course there's the Automatic, but I'm not sure if the Chumat will have enough time to deal with it. Yep, Automatic immediately moves back, Talbot very aware that those are still in the building. So that means that Talbot will get control of this. Chumat will not stand a chance. There are the 2k ones, and with some nice smoke plays, he should be able to just smoke off the tanks and automatics and try to do with the Lift Garden, but he will still need some infantry to tank first and, you know, make them visible. He can't just push up to the town to the Lift Garden because they might just jump around and side shot AK1s or whatnot. Chumat here now getting killed. And Lift Garden being at near full HP. You don't want to push just recklessly into a town of MG3 shock squads on Veteran. It's a death sentence. Panzergrens also establishing a position here that's very strong, giving Talbot also valuable information, right? He will have line of sight over this whole open area, and then know, you know, what might be coming for here. Maybe Nick is trying to push into Bravo. MLU double typing those K1s on elite, of course, being gonna be very accurate, and 2 26 AP missiles gonna be more than enough to deal with a single K1, and you know, 4 of those missiles, 2 K1s, 2 dead tanks. M1 Abrams coming here. There's still a looks there that Nick might or might not be aware of. There is some base defense, but the artillery doesn't really need a whole lot, so the Razzmann should ideally be enough. Unless, of course, there's a tiger sneaking around, which it isn't. Down with the tiger means that Talbot will have access to a third one. Some M41s as base defense around here too, and another CV. And this one that I've also recently started using, because 2 front and 2 side armor, of course, means that 3/4 of, you know, the areas where it could get shot at outside of top armor get reduced HE damage, and howitzer artillery and such tend to not hit top armor that much, so you get that 60% damage reduction should you get hit fairly frequently. Looks opening fire on those KAVs. I don't think they will spot. They might spot it now if those infantry squads are unloaded. Yep, they have medium optics and will now at this range spot the looks. And, you know, despite the looks being at an advantageous position and opening fire first, those KAVs just have a better autocannons at that range and of course come at a higher veterancy. Slightly higher, but still higher. Abrams detecting that they got it. That's some unfortunate timing for Talbot. And with those 2 MGs and some 9 RPM, 105mm gun, shouldn't really be a problem. Unless he gets a lucky crit on that Abrams. And with 20 AP, it will still need 3 shots and definitely not gonna get that out. So that's very good for NickDaMan, because dealing with something like this that is so fast and mobile. Oh, let's watch this. MLU is on elite, of course. Ooh, gets the MLU. And I have been told that this aim 9 here. Okay, hold on. Where is it? There it is. So, deals 5 damage to the M41. Oh, it's always funny to see stuff like that. But the MLU manages to kill the Block 52. Coming, of course, on elite versus the Block 52 on hardened. But of course, Block 52 gets those AIM-9 Emmels that nearly killed a M41. But yeah, that's always a bit plane engagements, especially high vet versus high vet, are always just very frustrating for whoever loses because, yeah. But you know, Talbot comes out on top with his very strong multi-role plane, very useful to have and very important not to lose. With that payload, of course, very good to deal with, you know, multiple medium tanks, as we saw. One of those Lift Guardian squads being down on 2 HP. Personally, I would like to see this being either, you know, pulled back or that those supply tracks being moved up. Talbot has these Jäger, so he knows this is clear. Or more or less clear. He could smoke off these 4s if he expects there to be Chumats and then move those supply trucks up to repair them. Links being flown here. Nothing more invested from NickDaMan on this side. Doesn't really have any eyes on this area. There could always be a Lux driving around here. He might not be too scared of that, but even still it could give Talbot some valuable line of sight. Incoming planes, incoming helicopters, stuff like that. And Talbot actually immediately trying to counter the 2-point zone. Very aggressive. He doesn't have a huge foothold there. Did spot the Achzarit Pikut, but with the artillery that he has access to, unless he runs the Mars, gonna be tough to snipe. Not impossible, but tough. Water presumably smoking those Chumats. Commandos on veteran. They definitely give those Lift Guardian a run for the money, and quite a run they do, with a much stronger primary weapon and a stronger MG. Leopard 204 being pushed up here, that's gonna be scary. It's quite exposed, but even if if there's a peace run to Kern or something coming in for the 204, there's 2 automatics here that will, not guaranteed, but with a high chance, kill that incoming plane. Tiger doesn't manage to fire those snaps fast enough, and another one goes down. This is yeah, this is HE. For a second I thought he might try to smoke here. Stunning those Sojourning Zone False Game Saker, not quite panicking them, but that's not really that important. Especially those Sojourning Zone are just meant to actually just draw fire and get line of sight on those Lift Guardians, so those KFVs and the Abrams here can kill them. I believe the Cobra, there it is, dealt with the Lynx, but definitely was planned to kill those Lift Guardian here. Rocket Pod's incredibly strong for dealing with entrenched infantry. 204 eating a Chumat to the face. Achzari taking a side shot from those Jäger, but once again all this fire support here very quickly worrying the Jäger, and you know, against front armor needing 2 shots against the Achzari, it's a big plus. Already dealt with 1 Rovade squad though, because that SMG does do a lot of damage. And I'm not sure if NickDaMan actually wants those Rovade to be in town. He just walks through them, which might actually be better, because if they're in the town, then your fire support very often refuses to engage them, because those 2 infantry will inhabit the same block, and I believe the AI thinks this will deal damage to your own squad, so unless you tell them explicitly, they will not shoot the infantry. But anyway, Rovade are dead, because again, that SMG is gonna, on the lead squads, it's just gonna melt infantry, and all those stuff, all got killed, because there wasn't enough fire support. And fist squads in a defensive position, they deal a lot of damage. Achzarit for Bravo to lower the bleed, but it's still gonna be a +2 for Talbot. Lars 2, that was a pre-queued up fire position here, came out way too late of course, but the Lars was still reloading when that fire position order was given, so that's why it came out even though everything died here. Or maybe he expected there to be more stuff, in which case it was just a preemptive strike that didn't hit anything. More Bradleys. Actually, those are the M2A2s have much better armor and actually do not get one shot by Milan ones. That's quite hilarious. Even to the side they will survive by Milan 1, which is actually crazy. They have better side armor than Leopard 1. Let that sink in. I'm not saying that's unrealistic, but it's from a wargame perspective a bit hilarious. At least to me. Fly truck for the Abrams. They still did Cobra. That could have done a lot of work, because especially with the smoke that was there previously, I'm not sure if the automatic that used to be here would have gotten line of sight on the Cobra, especially if it flew here. I think the automatic would have had a tough time. I'm also fairly certain that Nick does not run Seedplane, obviously the biggest bane of automatics, but I think I mentioned it. If the opponent doesn't run Seedplane, or if he killed all the enemy seed, then automatics are gonna be a pain in the ass. The main thing that keeps them in check is just seed. Even just the threat of seed is gonna be very, very crucial for keeping them in check, at least somewhat. M577 getting panicked here by those mortars. No heavy artillery. I'm pretty sure Nick does run the M270, and with Lucky Strike, of course, could kill that. But it, on average, takes more to kill this than just a cheap CV. Chumat gets rid of that automatic. I believe they were not spotted, only the Fallschirmjäger were. Also Gazelle Hot, but this means there's no AA, and Nick tends to be very aggressive with the helicopters. Likes to use the Hot quite a lot. It is a very strong helicopter as well. 40 points, very small. MLU circling around, but can't do much against helos. The fire here, of course, forcing the CV to move a bit. Commandos here trying to bait fire, but those are Panzergrens. They have quite some burst damage, but of course so do rocket pods. There we go, one squad dead. Lars a bit off target, killing one of the Huns and panicking the other one. And there we go, those Panzergrens are basically dealt with. But Talbot reinforcing this position. Now Milan wants here Ilstotogruppe, Livgarden are low, and two Panzergrens again walking around here. It's gonna be very tough to deal with, like make use of Abramses, etc. here. And they're gonna easily kill those with 2 shots, or even just 1 to the side, of course. You will need 11 armor to survive a 24 AP side shot, which only the Challenger 2 as well as the Chimera are able to do. Commandos 90 get into position here. Milan ones are still here. I would like to see those G3A2s being turned off so they don't give their position away too early. That CV probably gonna die. Unless there's... yeah, because I'm pretty sure Nick is not gonna stop right here. He's gonna try to get that CV. Or not? Oh, it's on attack move. He shouldn't have this on attack move. Oh no, it's just stopped. Oh, is this gonna get away? Please don't tell me this is gonna get away, Nick. Oh, and now those 5 pointers are there. They're gonna deal with the Cobra. Yeah. Oh, that's frustrating. Should have not let that live. Misplay by Nick. I mean, given that it already used all of its ammo, I think it was worth the risk to potentially lose it and get that CV kill, but maybe he was also just busy microing somewhere else, or thought that that single movement command would be enough to kill it while doing something else somewhere else on the map. So, you know, will always be like some small mistake like that. But a small mistake like that can also have big repercussions. 2 additional automatics coming in. Especially if you're fighting over an open area where you can make use of that range, even better for that thing. But of course, you have to be careful of those Schumats, specifically this one, which once again can get a nasty angle through here like earlier. Hans getting killed, I believe those were Hans, I wasn't fully paying attention. Lars, only 2 Lars out for now, I believe. Oh, they're upvetted, I believe. Unless they both killed enough to upvet, but if you upvet them, you only get 2. Some more base defense, some Dragoner here. Not a lot of Dragoners being called out, just mainly shock infantry, which is probably on purpose, given that Dragoners struggle against 5-point spam. But then again, they're a very good spam themselves. Okay, once Gebhardt's more commandos being moved up. Another Hawk, Magic Yoshiki, the usual stuff, but currently a stalemate, but Talbot leading with, of course, 220-ish points. MU coming in, getting another K1 and the Gebhardt. Hawk not in range to finish this off. Very frustrating for Nick. And of course, always annoying when you push over the open field and the enemy has air dominance. Then those AT planes can be so annoying to deal with. Oh, those Panzergrens can't get a nasty shot on that Abrams. These ones moving around, trying to sneak through. Have to be careful that you don't get caught out in the open here by the CS, but in theory, of course, has the potential to do some nasty work. And even if he just kills the CS and then moves away, it forces Nick to invest here and to, you know, investigate what happened, what is there, how much is there, etc. 1284 gets sniped by that Bradley, very good. Once again, those TOW2s, don't underestimate TOW2s. Even the 40-point TOW2 jeeps in the vehicle type, do not underestimate them. K1 masterfully, nearly dodging all those rockets until the last 2 or 3. Now getting panicked. And there's still a Jumat sitting here. Those commandos should win against those Ilstader, I think, even though they're panic. I'd be surprised if they didn't. They're on a fucking veteran. But there's 3 lift garden. No way. Oh, and those automatic, that automatic just catching these Rovite out in the open. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. The Starter Club on 1 HP should probably be preserved, but presumably gonna die here. There we go. That's really annoying thing about Fist Squads. They just don't have the staying power. For I think what's obvious reasons. Chumat here, a side shot will not kill the 2A4, and it's doesn't even hit Lars 2's aiming for their next salvo. They rearmed their salvos fairly quickly, which is why I switched back to the Lars 2's from the Lars 1's originally, if you remember me using them a few weeks ago. And just gonna panic the stuff, or keep it panicked. Once again, Lars 2's, unlike the Plunjing, which does both, not really meant to kill stuff. I mean, sometimes it's a nice bonus, but you just use it to panic, right? To panic, to stun, to stop a push, or to make a push much, much weaker. Chumat here, unfortunately for Nick, being wasted on 5-pointers, but then again, he kind of has to, otherwise they just get killed by the 5-pointers. Shiki, of course, also wasting its missiles because it's gonna lose line of sight when they're moving in and out of cover, or just misses. Lift Garden forcing those riflemen to unload early. There wasn't really any fire support, but I guess Nick was just probing and hoping maybe there's not much in there. There is not much in there, but still enough to deal with those riflemen and not let Nick know what else is in there. Very quiet here, but no defense here. If I was Talbot, I was... Excuse me, I had to quickly do some stuff. Anyway, yeah, if I was Talbot, I would definitely be scared to have no defenses here. It's, once again, relatively easy to sneak stuff through here. And while he does have Panzergrens here, he has, of course, no way of definitely knowing there's nothing back there. More riflemen being thrown into the meat grinder. Just 1k1 panicked as fire support. Still no LRM? This is so weird. I don't know why Nick doesn't call out an LRM. He also doesn't really make good use of his fob at the moment. And you can also, of course, use the LRM trying to panic or stun an automatic or AA in general. But the earlier you, of course, take out your LRM, take it out to dinner, the more value you can get out of it over the course of the game. If you call it in the last 15 minutes and you don't take, like, say 4,000 or 5,000 supply out of your fob, it's not a lot of value. And while Talbot doesn't have a lot of targets here, all of this stuff is in fairly obvious positions, so Nick is definitely gonna be able to hit some stuff. But I guess he just, for the first 20 minutes of the game or so, just didn't feel in a position to buy one, being counter-capped here, having lost the opener. So Talbot essentially keeping the pressure on for Nick. But, oh my god, look at those 4 K1s. But once again, those riflemen just pushed in without a K1 support, which you hate to see. But I suppose that Nick just felt like he has to push in there. Otherwise, you know, Talbot is just gonna move the CV back in, which also should definitely get supplied accidentally, or maybe on purpose, resupplying that mortar, but I'd like to think it was not on purpose. We tend to just buy new ones. Lars 2's coming back from the fob, aiming for the next salvo, trying to deal with those K1s. You saw what MLRS, you know, can do when it comes to panicking stuff. And, you know, Nick could do the same against 2A4s, rendering them essentially useless while pushing them with his K1s. Or at least evening the playing field, well, no, having both tanks, the tanks on both sides, I should say, be panicked. Oh, this Panzergrens here. I guess Talbot maybe was not paying attention to spotting the Artillerie with his links earlier, or trying to do something else. I don't know. Okay, one still being saved by the bomb cloud here, by the smoke cloud, of course. Oh no, okay, just killed a 5-pointer or something. I'm not sure if this is a good idea from Nick. Well, yes, he can try to get a shot in and then reverse. I feel like the bigger disadvantage of being panicked these days is not necessarily the low rate of fire, but especially in engagements like these, it's the aim time, right? If you pop out and back into smoke, having this much longer aim time means you have to stay vulnerable for a much longer time, right? There's the other tiger, the last tiger sitting here. About to... Oh, surprised those 2 months are still alive. Of course, the tiger here being an endangered species, last one left alive in this match. 2A4's just sitting here. But yeah, Talbot sitting with a +3. There is the LRM finally, with its full of 8 rockets. Going for those 2A4s. Oh, but he has to be careful that those K1s do not die to those automatics here. As well as a lift guard that if they jump into that building, could definitely get some side shots. There's a K1. Getting a firing with the reset on this K1. Hold on a second, what was that explosion there? I'm confused. You see this? Was it from the last? Was it the last LRM rocket? I wasn't fully paying attention. I guess maybe there was the last, like the 8th rocket, because this is the second salvo of 4 rockets. So Nick was a bit too eager and I believe stunned his own CSs here. Lift garden. Automatic. 1 K1 down to the MLU and the other MLU. Did it just... Sniping what is a KFE-25 as well as... Whoa. I believe just 2 KFE-25s. Hawk, Pip... Ooh, killing the MLU finally. But that thing got a lot of value. There's the K1s, let's see. 1 shot and the 2A4 just opened the hand, so this one in the back is not gonna reload very soon. They're also split quite far. Yeah, there's one. I think 1 K1 just dying to the 2A4. And I'm pretty sure those 2A4s are gonna be dead. But both, yeah, there it is. There's but the tiger, keeping them at least panicked. And now the automatic, of course, dealing with those Hachikushikis together with the Milan 1. And of course, dealing with the infantry. K1 actually being panicked, still killing that automatic. That's quite lucky, I'd like to say. 1 HP getting killed by the lift garden here. But again, it would have been the side shot, so, you know, would have done a lot of damage anyway. Milan 1. Oh, opening fire with the MG rifles. And smoke fading up to failure on a K1. Unless they're gonna be side shots, I don't think the Milan 1s are gonna be able to finish this off actually. Coming in for those Milans. LRM not being fast moved to the farm. Now it's being moved. It's very frustrating. It's gonna be like another 2 or so minutes of reloading until it's ready again. And I think at this point, I can't see a way of Nick coming back unless he like tries to cheese in a way. Hawk using its last missile, and there's nothing else to deal damage, so the peace run will get out at 1 HP. 2A5 now being called in. Still, outside of the block 52, no air presence from Nick, but once again, I think the fact that the MLU was up and, you know, he couldn't snipe any automatics, probably didn't feel like it was worth trying to get some value out of it. And I gotta completely understand that, because a single automatic is gonna shut down planes so easily. So unless you manage to get line of sight on them and snipe them with, let's say, peace friends or peace pheasants, or seedbins, of course, which presumably Nick doesn't run, they're really gonna shut you down. They're crazy, and I'll be honest with you, kind of overpowered. Speaking of another one being called in, but yeah, I think this is pretty much GG at this point. It was probably already like 10-15 minutes ago, but Nick has definitely pulled off some comebacks in his lifetime of playing Wargame. Not this time though, I believe. Like, even if he countercaps this, right, he will only get a +1, and with 10 minutes it's only 150 points. And there's 2 2A5s even. Oh, and those large 2s, of course. There's a Kurnas dealing a lot of damage to one and getting out alive, surprisingly enough. But even then, of course, the push fails once more. And Talbot even pushes for this town now. Urna's coming in again, not killing a 2f5 once more. And the automatics still not able to finish this off. Interesting. I don't know why. Where the buildings maybe blocking line of sight? Sometimes it can happen. But yeah, of course, this is now GG. Tiger, this time getting the revenge and killing the Stinger before the Stinger can kill it. There's the PTR 40, presumably being killed. Yep, there it is. Last ditch effort from Nick, but even if he gets in there, this is GG. No, Spencer's still sitting there behind the Abrams. And 205 just roaming. Oh, is he gonna get the artillery? That'd be... No. One can hope, right? Please? Please kill the oh, the Martyrs, please, yes. Do it! I wanna see that athlete getting killed. There we go. Yep, very nice. Well, it was a rather one-sided match. Oh my goodness, yeah. But, wow. Yeah, I think Nick really didn't have an easy time pushing. I think it was just the automatics. Not so much in their direct firepower. They of course did some work, but just by their pure existence, essentially keeping Nick's planes in check, really. That, and of course the MLU being able to kill the Block 52 as well, and handing Talbot the air presence. Or air superiority, I should say. The opener being completely countered, and Talbot also just keeping up the pace, being proactive throughout the game, dictating what's happening, when it is happening, and where it is happening, right? Nick was basically always reacting. He was never doing the pushes, and some decks benefit more from it than others, but in general, of course, it is always best if you dictate the pace, because then you know what is happening and what is gonna happen. One of the most dangerous or easiest way to lose a game that you're currently winning is by not seeing something coming. And nothing that Nick was doing was really or looked like surprising to Talbot. Nick was always pushing where Talbot just pushed Nick out, right? At first, Nick was trying to come back into Foxtrot, that Talbot pushed him out, didn't work. Talbot pushed his 2-pointer, and from that point on, Nick just tried to push him out of there constantly. While Nick never really tried to do something anywhere else, which I'm not saying would have been a better choice. I don't know. I wasn't in Nick's position. Of course, always changes on what you actually see from a player's point of view. I was seeing everything, so I had a much easier time. But yeah, Talbot just kept the pressure on, and that is incredibly important to just keep winning. So yeah, even though it was once again a rather one-sided match, I think I found it was still rather interesting. I think that's all there is to say. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Later.